Hi, my name is Mark Peterson. I've been repairing exercise equipment for about 25 years. Today, I want to show you how to maintain the Stair Master 4000 PT. The first thing you need to do is remove the power. Place a blanket, towel, newspaper on your flooring because you will get it dirty and greasy. As people use their machines, they sweat. Health clubs come back and they clean the sweat with alcohol-based products. That dries the plastic. What you can do to rejuvenate that plastic is to come back with a lubricant, just a spray lube, and then wipe that in to clean, to rejuvenate, and to actually protect the plastic from future sweat drips. Okay, next you want to remove the shroud. You have 3 screws, one on the bottom and you have 2 on the top. Now as the years went on, Stair Master changed these. Some of the old style are bolts and nuts, and then on the newer style you have a 1/4 turn Phillips head, and then that's all you do. It's not a screw that you keep turning, it's just a 1/4 turn. And then remove your shroud. Okay, our first point of lubrication is going to be within our step pedal, and we have the leveler arm shaft, and we also have the actual step arm shaft itself. And to get these off, we need to take our spring clip pliers and remove our pin from here, and then we have a C-clamp up here that we're actually going to remove with a couple of little screwdrivers. Okay, so to be able to remove our pedal, we need to, on our leveler arm, we have a clip, but we've also got a little safety band which keeps these clips from just kind of falling off by themselves. So we need to get that out first. And then we have a little C-clip here, and we're basically just going to push on both sides of this to get it to crawl back a little bit. Then once I've got it back, I can come in and pull it down and out. It's my little C-clamp. Okay, now my leveler arm is ready to come loose. I need to get to my main shaft. And again with spring clip pliers. And sometimes it's very difficult. It doesn't come off that easily all the time. And then just remove our pedal. There's 2 points I want to talk to you about on your pedal shafts. You want to come in here and feel across to see if you have any burrs, or if the shaft itself is actually worn to where you can feel a divot in the shaft. Same thing on the leveler arm also. And then on your pedal arm, as these pedals get real old, these holes will get an oblong wear to them, and it'll give you a lot of play back and forth on your pedal as you step. The cleaning on the shaft is, again, I just take a lubricant. Petroleum oils will clean off petroleum oils, so it works real well. If I come across a shaft that is heavily worn, has a lot of rust, I'll come back with either a 600 grit sandpaper, it's more of a polishing kind of sandpaper, or maybe with a 3M Scotch-Brite pad, and to clean that shaft off to where it's nice and slick. Then after I've cleaned this and smoothed this, I'll come back just with a small layer of grease. Now in a home situation, you probably can do this once a year if you're using it 3 to 5 times a week. If you're in a commercial situation, this would be done every 3 to 6 months. Then just put your pedal back on. Something else I want you to check is the brass hole inside here. Just like the hole in your pedal itself, the main shaft, you want your leveler arm bushing to be nice and round also, because if this wallers out, you will get a lot of back and forth play in this area. And now we're going to replace our spring clips. Then pop my clip back on. And then come back with my little plastic holder. And then that's good for my pedal. Okay, the next thing I want to do is pull my spring, but with the amount of dirt and grease that collects on these machines, I would recommend getting some kind of gloves. Okay, to pull your spring, it's real easy. Grab your spring, pull up, take it off of the shaft, and then let it drop. Go ahead and pull your pedal down. And spring out. Okay, on the top of my drive assembly, we actually have a chain retainer, and we need to remove this. And we've got 2 bolts on either side. The problem with this machine, it's so old, it's come from a university that has had a lot of use, is that my bolt on this side is rusted. And with the time frame that I have, I really can't hit it with the penetrating oil and to loosen that up. So I can remove 1 bolt out of here, get my screwdriver, go ahead and pull it up. Now what that's going to do is allow me to get my chain out. Okay, so checking a chain, basically you just put your finger in and roll it up, and what you want is for every link to roll nice and smooth around your finger. What can happen when these is that you'll have 2 links that'll freeze up, and then you'll get them caught in this position here as they go over that drive sprocket. When it comes off of the drive sprocket, it'll straighten out, and you can actually get a pedal drop within that motion right there. Anyway, what I do first to lubricate my chain is I wipe it off first. I'm using a spray lubricant, and I'm trying to keep from washing any dirt or debris inside my chain. Okay, then with the lube and the towel backing, I just spray it down. Manufacturer recommendations are that you use a 30 weight oil, motor oil, but what I find with the 30 weight motor oil is that it's black, it's dirty, and it continues to drip and run onto the floor long after you've lubricated your machine. What I do is I spray my chain with the towel backing, and then I wipe off the excess. And that's my lubrication on a chain. Again, I would do this about every 3 to 6 months in a home situation, and I would do it every 3 months in a commercial situation. Okay, moving along, we get to our springs. And these springs do tend to rust a lot. Springs are only $10, and if I get a spring that has a heavy rust on it, I just go ahead and replace the spring. It's better off to replace it than to have it break in the middle of your step and you fall off sideways and hurt yourself. But if you have a spring that's not too bad, not too rusted, again with a lubricant, we're just going to spray it out, because all of this oil will keep the sweat from sticking and causing the rust. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is to remove the pedal arm. And we have a snap ring here, and we have a snap ring here, and you do have to have some snap ring pliers or you'll never be able to get these off. And they can be difficult. If you struggle with them, that's okay. A lot of people do. Also, what I will do is I'll take a tiny screwdriver, and as I squeeze and pull this apart, I'll kind of get my screwdriver behind here to help me pull that off. It can actually save you some time by doing that. Okay, for the top, we have a much tinier spring clip, and so when you get snap ring pliers, get some that have assorted tips so that you can come back in with the smallest, because it does make a difference on whether you're going to get these spring clips out of here or not. And these little ones can be some of the toughest to get off. And just take your springs, spread them apart, and do what you can to get them off. Okay, then after that, we're going to remove our pedal arm. Now there's a lot of cases to where these crank arms have been on here for a long time, and not only has the bushing worn inside, but the shaft is worn inside too. And a lot of people experience difficulty just trying to take these off. And so if you get one like that, what you do is just to keep rocking it back and forth and pulling it at the same time. You can add some lubricant here at the same time, but just keep rocking it, keep rocking it, keep rocking it, and then it'll finally slide off. There are sometimes you may need to put a puller on it, but just keep rocking it back and forth until you get it off. Okay, just like the shaft on our pedals, we're looking for the same issues with the shafts on these 2 points here. You want to feel the shaft for any roughness, scarring, cutting into the shaft. This one feels pretty good here. It's nice and smooth. For me to get some of this old lubricant off of here, I'm just going to hit it with some spray lube, which will actually help dissolve that grease. And then in cases where I have a shaft that's heavily scarred and heavily marked, I'll come back with a 600 grit polishing kind of sandpaper. And this will just kind of help to clean that up. And to smooth that out. Our little spring return wheel right here. You can take this off and lubricate it if you want with the grease, but you can also just come in with a little spray. Then wipe off the excess. Since I have this rust down in here, it would almost be a good time to talk about that. Okay, so now that we're down to the frame and we can actually kind of see some of this rust in here, this is a product from all of the years of sweat and not being cleaned up and taken care of. Once it's gotten to this point, you've really kind of messed up the paint totally. But there's some products that you can use. But I come back with just a wire brush, kind of clean some of that off. Then I have a product that I use called Rust Converter. Now this product sprays out clear, turns black, and it turns into a black primer. Now what this product also does is it takes that rust, does a chemical composition on it, and turns it into a black primer. Since this frame is already black, I can use this product and spray it on here. Turns the frame black. I don't have to worry about coming back and trying to repaint a powder coated machine. It only works on black. Since it turns black, it'll mess up a white paint job. Okay, so the next thing down the line is going to be within our actual main drive chain right here. And again, just take my lubricant with a towel backing, give it a good spray. Make sure you wipe off the excess, because if you don't, you will get drips off of this also. And then I'll kind of pull my chain around to where what was going over the sprockets is now in the middle. And then wipe off the excess. Okay, I do want to talk about a part of the frame that is not rusted. One of the protections that you can make on the frame before it starts to rust out is, again, I come back with the spray lube. And I'll just wipe it across my paint like this. And again, what this does is it puts a little oily film that kind of protects my paint. It's not going to hurt the paint, and the sweat will actually run off and drip away, and then you won't tend to have all of this rust build up. Okay, our next area to check is going to be the alternator brushes. And you want to go ahead and remove the field wire. And this with a nut driver. Remove the 2 alternator screws that hold the plate for the brushes in. Remove the plate. When the brushes, they just kind of pop out sideways. Ooh, these are tiny. These are short. Okay, this is one of the first things that I'll look for on alternator brushes. You have springs in the back of your brushes, which push the brushes towards the commutator inside the alternator. The more pressure you have on the commutator, the better resistance you're going to have and experience within your stepper. This stepper here, chances are it's going to run a little bit faster than a normal stepper, just because these brushes are short, they're not making good contact, so the alternator's not going to be a sufficient break. I would replace these brushes before I put this back together. And then as far as maintaining the alternator, there's nothing that you can do in here except for to vacuum it out, which is one. But the most beneficial thing is to go ahead and blow it out. Get your vacuum cleaner, turn it around, and then just blow all of the open parts. You also want to wear a filter mask because you're blowing out carbon and you don't want to breathe this in. But just blow around through all of the different sections until you blow it clean. Okay, another thing I want you to look at is the commutator inside the alternator. The commutator is the copper piece that the brushes actually rub on. This particular commutator has grooves, and so the brushes are actually going to sit down inside those grooves, and they're going to also lose their braking efficiency by that. And I would recommend replacing the alternator at that point. And the reason we want to have good continuity between the brushes and the commutator is that the alternator is what is used for the brake of the system. This is what lets you speed up or slow down while you're stepping on your machine. Okay, now we're going to put the brushes back in. There's a little trick. The brushes aren't very easy to get in, especially if you have brand new long brushes. So what I will do is I'll push my brushes in, and at the end of my brushes, I have these wires that stick out from the back of them. I will grab them and kind of pull them over so that I'm holding my brushes back inside my holders, and then I'll come in and slip my brushes in. My cover plate, and then my cover plate screws. And my field wire. Let me show you what a new set of brushes look like. See how nice and long those are? Those will put a lot of pressure on the commutator. With a nice, tight, snug fit like that, you'll get all of the braking that alternator needs to put out. Okay, our next point is going to be within our transmission itself. And really there's nothing that we can do with the transmission. The bearings that you have inside the transmission are sealed bearings, and then other than that you have gears, and basically either the gears go bad or the bearings go bad and get loud. At that point you just replace your transmission. They're only about $165, and that's really all we can do as far as maintenance on the transmission on the 4000 PT. Okay, now that we're on the other side, you want to go ahead and repeat the same steps for the pedal arm, pedals, and the chain. So from here, as far as lubricating, the drive belts we don't have to lubricate, of course, but what I do check is all of the ribbing within inside the drive belt itself. As these get old and start to slip, you will start to lose some of these ribs, and the more ribs you lose, the more traction you lose. So you'll actually pick up a slip or a pedal drop with having those worn ribs. And then on this side with our drive sprocket, this is the difference, is we have a grease zerk. 3 different styles of this drive assembly. One with a grease zerk on the end of the shaft, another with a grease zerk in the actual hub, and then one with no grease zerk whatsoever. Okay, and so the last place that we want to hit is going to be in this drive hub assembly. And with the grease zerk, just hook your grease gun up, give it some pumps, and what you're looking for is on the back of your sprockets here. When you have enough grease, the grease is going to start coming out of the back. And it'll happen on both sides, of course. But then that'll be the lubrication for the drive hub assembly. Okay, so I've showed you how to lubricate the pedals, showed you how to lubricate the step chain, the drive hub assembly, showed you what to do with the spring and the pulley, and then we've gone over the pivot points, the alternator, the drive belt, the transmission, and the drive chain. So that about wraps it up for this video on lubricating your 4000 PT stepper. Remember, if you have any questions or if there's something that I haven't covered on this video, you can always email me, markepeterson@austin.rr.com. And thank you.